Okay, we'll get started. Welcome everybody to the Penacook Village Association's annual meeting. I'm Brent Todd, I'm president of the PVA. Hope you're all doing well tonight. Thank you all for coming out, appreciate it. We have our special guest here, Mayor-elect Byron Champlin. We'll be getting to him in a moment. He is recovering from a mild case of COVID. I have masks over there in case those of you are concerned about that, but he's doing well. He tested negative today, which is good news. Well done.
Thank you.
And he's got that on as a precaution for himself and for others. But mostly for others, but there are masks available if you'd like. So we're going to just take care of a little bit of Penacook Village Association business first, and then we'll move into hearing from our guest speaker. So I want to thank Merrimack Valley School District once again for supplying us with the meeting space here tonight, and thank you to Concord TV for filming tonight. We always appreciate that. So folks that miss these meetings do get a chance to enjoy them and listen to them later on. And I want to thank the PVA board members. Can I just have a show of hands of the board members here tonight? Thank you very much for your service to the organization. And remember, the PVA is an all-volunteer organization. There are no paid staff or anything. And they put in a lot of time on different events and different meetings and planning for various things. Again, very much appreciate your service and dedication. I want to say that, as I mentioned, this is a volunteer organization, and I do want to thank all of the people who join regularly as members. Your membership fees actually help us with our ongoing costs for various items that we're required to have, our insurance and other various things that we need. So we do very much appreciate it. If any of you want to, our renewals are going to be due soon, so if any of you want to pay tonight, Anna Glover is our treasurer. She's right there, and you can see her afterwards and make payment, and that'll save us a stamp of sending out a reminder, so we'd appreciate that. So this is really the only neighborhood organization in Concord, the only officially recognized neighborhood organization, and we really work to serve the community. This is really your organization. So to the extent that you have an idea that you'd like to start an event, you have some ideas on what things we could do in the community, that's really what we're all about. So anything that you have that you want to bring to us as an idea, we'd welcome it. Any of you that want to volunteer time on any of our current events or to work on those new proposed events, that's fantastic. Again, that's what we're here for. We're here for you. So we're always open to new ideas. And this is always an opportunity for me to read the PVA mission statement and vision statement. So I'm going to do that. Take me a minute. The mission statement is to involve citizens in enhancing the quality of life, protecting the historic character, and fostering economic vitality in Penacook Village. And the vision statement is to build community through a voluntary association that connects neighbors, shares neighborhood information, and promotes activities and civic involvement in the village. And as I always like to say, that's what we're doing tonight. That's why we're here tonight. Civic involvement, and we're going to be getting hopefully some great information and some comments, and you'll be able to ask your questions to our mayor-elect here in a moment. But first, there are two terms that are expiring this year on our board, and that is Chris LeBrake and Christine Miller. And I'm wondering if I can have a motion. Anyone can make a motion that is a member to approve those two folks for 2-year terms. Would someone willing to make a motion? Okay. And do we have a second? Second. Okay, great. All right, good. And all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Of course not. And thank you very much. Congratulations to our two folks who will continue on for another 2 years. And just a reminder to all the PVA board members, after this meeting is concluded, we'll meet very briefly to conduct some business, including election of officers. And we'll try to just do that really quickly afterwards, so hopefully we'll be able to fit that in. My other order of business is to introduce our mayor-elect, Byron Champlin. This is, I think, his first open public address since becoming mayor.
I wouldn't call it an address, but it's my first public appearance.
Appearance, yes. So we're very pleased that you're here in Penacook for that, and I think that's wonderful.
And start in Ward 1.
Well, yeah, that's right. Start at the beginning. Very good policy. I usually try to do that myself. But you know, I know that Mayor-elect Champlin has always had a warm spot in his heart for Penacook. You always see him at events. We've seen him here at previous annual meetings of the PVA. You see him at the tree lighting event that we put on. He's here, and he has been counselor at large for a number of years, and he's gotten a lot of experience. He's gotten to know Penacook, and as I say, I think he's in great position to be able to help the whole city and Penacook as well going forward. So with that, I want to turn things over to our Mayor-elect Byron Champlin. Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
the floor is yours, and we're going to give you that. Yep.
Thank you, Brent. Councilor Todd, I appreciate that introduction, and it's great to be in Penacook. As Brent says, I try to get up here as often as I can. I don't live that far away. I live in Ward 4, so I'm almost in the middle of the city. I would like to acknowledge before I start not only Councilor Todd, but Councilor Pierce came in, and I'm trying to find him in the crowd back there, and also Councilor-elect Horn, who will be joining us on City Council in January. So it's great to see both of you here. Penacook has been very, very good to me. I appreciate the invitation by the Penacook Village Association. I also appreciate the support that I found in Penacook during the recent municipal elections. It was great to canvass up here. It was great to chat with folks up here. I have to say that my observation is that there's a great deal of energy in Penacook right now. For example, when I'm visiting, when I've been in the village, I notice things like Warren Street Architects has moved up here from downtown Concord. I noticed that Strings and Things has moved up here from downtown Concord. I see, I was canvassing and somebody was talking about having a great bakery downtown, and I said, what bakery? And they said, Kay's Place. And I said, Kay's Place is reopened? And so as soon as I could, I ran over to Kay's Place before I went back home and picked up some goodies to take back to Ward 4. So there's a certain excitement and energy that I find. I also noticed that the former Area 23 has moved up to Seven Pines, which I think is also a great sign. We were just talking earlier with David and Lori and Councilor Todd about the arrival of Prinoth over at the former Concord Sports Center site. And that's an international company that moved down from Gilmanton because of the facilities that we have here. Now, that's not adding to the tax base per se, but that's bringing jobs and energy and money into Concord and into Penacook, which is all, I think, a very, very positive trend. We're also, anticipating the start of construction in the summer or in the spring of the new Canal Street Riverside Park, which I think is going to be a great facility for the city and really reinvigorate that area that once was, a brownfield site. And now is going to be a recreational asset for the city, and hopefully will be a place where there will be community gatherings, community entertainment, and really bring life and help add more life to the village center. Also, of course, there's the new Boys and Girls Club, which is underway, which will host the Penacook Branch Library, the Concord Library System. Also will have recreation area, will provide needed daycare services for the city and for the Penacook community. Another great step forward. Economic development, to my mind, and as I said during my campaign, really needs to be one of the fundamental focuses, I think, of city government, because through economic development, we create job opportunities, we broaden the tax base. And so this is an appropriate time to say that one of the things I've been focused on the last several weeks is starting to put together an economic development advisory committee that can work with our restructured community development department in the city to look for economic development opportunities. My hope is that this will be a fairly high-level committee that will be able to do some visioning with the city, do what maybe the city staff who are working day-to-day in the trenches may not have time or energy to do, to look for those opportunities for us to bring in new businesses or to position ourselves to be attractive to new businesses and new enterprises. This is very professional, you can tell. The teleprompter was broken, and so what could I do? When I was canvassing back in October, when I was canvassing back in October, one of the things that I heard a lot about was the leaf pickup. And there was great consternation, and I had some great conversations about that. But I'm very, very pleased that the weather apparently has been very favorable for us. We haven't had major snowstorms that have diverted the staff from leaf pickup, curbside leaf pickup. And I believe that the team has already started working through Penacook. And it looks like the next week the weather is going to be very good as well. And that hopefully the curbside leaf pickup will be late, but will be completed in the village of Penacook. If you don't understand the way the system works, basically the same crews that plow are the crews that pick up the leaves. And so once they have to transfer over to the snow plows and convert the trucks to those and put the teams on that, the curbside pickup has to stop, although bag pickup would continue. But I think that's a very promising sign that hopefully we will not have drifts of leaves along the sidewalks in another week or so. One of the things that I've worked on as an at-large city councilor and as a ward councilor has been homelessness. And I understand that homelessness has started to be noticeable. Members of the homeless population have been noticeable here in Penacook, and that has caused some concern. I think that the city over the last several years has, or the effort to address homelessness over the last several years has made some significant inroads, particularly just recently. We are moving towards an effort to reach what we call functional zero in homelessness in the city. And functional zero means that homelessness is rare and brief when it does occur. Now, this is not something that's going to happen tomorrow. It's not like we can snap our fingers and it's going to be done. But two important steps that we've made to move in that direction are steps or building blocks that other communities have adopted in order to get there. One is that the Concord Coalition to End Homelessness has managed to put together a by-name census of our homeless population. It's important to realize that up until now, all we know is once a year the state conducts a point-in-time census, usually in January or February when the homeless are kind of in place, either in shelters or places where they can be reached, and they just count noses. It's just a raw number, and it's a very rough number. But the by-name census that the coalition has put together lets us know who they are. It's John Doe, it's Jane Smith. And it also allows us to understand in more detail what each individual's problems are. What are the issues that led them to homelessness? Another tool that we have just put in place is case conferencing. And case conferencing means that on a regular basis, representatives of the social services organizations that deal with homelessness sit down at the table with that by-name list. And they identify who are the key people here who we think we could move into housing. And they work through that list, identifying and addressing the individual issues, whether it's mental health issues, whether it's substance use issues, whether it's someone who is fleeing from an abusive relationship, whatever it is, they work on addressing those issues and getting that person into housing. Now, fundamentally, what we need to address, the other part of this, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned, is that as part of this, the Concord Police Department has been working very, very closely and has probably I don't want to misstate or overstate, but I think that the department has one of the closest working relationships with the homeless outreach workers that it's had in many years. The communication is direct and immediate particularly when reports of homeless encampments occur. The outreach workers and the police work very closely together to identify who the people are, find out, are they on public land, are they on private land, and work towards a resolution of that situation. However, and also, I think we need to recognize that Concord's homeless population, according to the Concord Coalition to End Homelessness, has been stable for the last couple of years. In other words, it's been about at the same numbers. What we experience is that in the fall and the spring, people tend to notice that there are homeless encampments. When the leaves are on in the summer or when it's the winter, people don't notice as much. But what we have found is that it has been a stable population. The coalition has housed about 70 people over the last couple of years. And they continue to move towards housing individuals. What we really need to move forward from this point is we need to continue to make sure that all the agencies that deal with homelessness are working together, that they're all cooperating. Like, think of that case conferencing I was talking about, and that they're all working towards a common goal of getting people out of homelessness and into housing. But to do that, we need more housing, because fundamentally, I know everybody in this room is familiar with New Hampshire's housing crisis, and in fact, the housing crisis around the country. And we have about 2,000 or 3,000 units that are in the pipeline in Concord, which is important, but is not going to be a complete solution. But in addition to those units, we also need willing landlords. The Granite United Way has a landlord incentive program that they've brought to Concord. We're trying to work to talk to landlords to see if those incentives can help. Because what is really needed is somebody who has a unit, a rental unit, who's willing to work with the Coalition to End Homelessness and the Belknap Merrimack Community Action Program to place somebody with wraparound services and a caseworker in their unit. Now, those units don't even have to be in Concord. I just learned recently that the coalition has placed 2 Concord homeless people in Franklin, in apartments in Franklin, because the landlords there were willing to work with them, and the individuals said that they were fine moving out of Concord and into Franklin as long as they had a roof over their head. So there are solutions available, and we are working in that direction. And I think that even though it may not, again, be apparent, we are making headway. Another issue I wanted to talk to you about that the city has been working on is community power. Is anybody familiar with community power? Yeah, Laurie, Mike, yeah. So what community power is right now when you get your electric bill from Unitil, I'm assuming everybody's on Unitil, we all are. There are 2 parts to your electric bill. One part is the charge, or 2 charges rather. One is the charge that Unitil imposes upon you for delivering the electricity to you. Unitil basically is a provider. They're not a generator of electric power. And so they charge you for their poles and their wires and whatnot. In fact, Unitil is the largest taxpayer in Concord because they pay taxes on their utility poles and their wires, believe it or not. So that's the part of the business that they make their money on. The other half of your bill is what they're charging you for electricity. And for Unitil, that's a pass-through charge. They're basically charging you cost for the electricity wherever they get it. The community power proposal that we're looking at right now would put the city in the place of Unitil in terms of going out into the market and buying the cheapest power possible. Now, there are 2 ways, and by the way, this is something that's been authorized by the legislature. Right now, there are about 50 communities that are poised to go into community power. And this is something that private businesses have been able to do for years, to go out and buy their own power from the cheapest provider they can find. So there are two models that the Concord Energy and Environment Advisory Committee has been looking at to bring community power into Concord. One is to join the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, which is, again, a coalition of communities under one umbrella who are basically going out and finding power, signing contracts, and providing it to their members. The other is a model that the city of Keene has adopted, and that is to basically go it alone, to create a relationship with a consultant who would then go out for us, find brokers, find power sources, and buy it. Now, why are we looking at this? Why is this something that is actively being pursued by the city through the Energy and Environment Advisory Committee? There are two reasons. One is that experience has shown that in all likelihood, we can actually reduce the electric bills because by going out and being creative and signing contracts for cheaper power than Unitil is. And part of that is the length of the contract that we could sign for, because the utilities basically sign 6-month contracts. We could look at a more long-term contract at a lower rate. The other is that this would help Concord and Penacook reach our renewable energy goals. We eventually want to be 100% on renewable energy. Right now, the city government is already 100% renewable because we signed a contract with Briar Hydro a few years ago, and that's basically the source of the municipality's power. But now this would go the next step and bring in all of the private ratepayers under that umbrella. The Energy and Environment Committee is meeting this month to determine which of those two options, the coalition or the individual model, is best for Concord, or that they would recommend to the City Council. And then early next year, probably in February, that will come before City Council, and the new City Council will vote on whether or not to accept that recommendation. If that happens, it then has to be approved by the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, and then we possibly could be on community power sometime in the fall of 2024. So it's very exciting, and I would love to hear your opinions or your thoughts about that. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the topic du jour, and that is the Beaver Meadow Golf Course proposal, the proposal for a new community center slash four-season facility there. One of the things that I found remarkable as I looked more deeply into this issue is that the current building, or at least the main part of it, was built when I was a sophomore in high school. Now, I know you know I'm 35 years old, so that was only a few years ago. But the city has gotten a lot of mileage out of that structure. So I think that it was appropriate to look at, what's the best course of action. And whether it was best to renovate it, whether it was best to tear it down and rebuild. If you're going to tear down and rebuild, what's the best value that you could get out of it? I think that there's been a healthy and a robust community conversation around this. I think there's going to be a healthy and robust public hearing next week when City Council meets to consider it. And which way we go, there are a lot of different opinions. I think that there have been enough questions raised and enough issues that it is worth considering whether we want to send it back to committee and basically have the ad hoc clubhouse committee take a deeper dive, look at more options, see whether or not we should look at a larger renovation, whether we should look at a scaled down new building. And what is the best value for the taxpayer? Because I think that it goes without saying we need to be prudent with taxpayer money and really consider all the options that we have. On the other hand, I think we need to be aware of the fact that Beaver Meadow is more than just a golf course. It's Beaver Meadow is a recreational facility that is multi-purpose. It's turned into a summer and winter facility. There's been talk about it only serving a small number of people. A lot of our facilities only serve small numbers of people. I think that it's important to realize that it is an entry-level recreational facility for people interested in golf. I've heard stories about, young people who have learned how to play golf at Beaver Meadow, gone on to get scholarships to college, and that's made their careers, that opportunity. It's also a place where social capital is built. I heard an anecdote the other day that the new Penacook food pantry was generated during an after-game conversation by a group of women at Beaver Meadow, where one person said this and the other person said that, and suddenly the idea of the food pantry came to be. That's social capital. That's where we come together, we talk about ideas and things that can benefit the community. So I think that we need to not discount the importance of the facility, but we also have to be prudent and take a hard look at, where our dollars should be going right now. So that is the end of my formal remarks, as informal as they are. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your questions, and maybe Councilor Todd can help me, with some of the hard questions, because he knows that I like the softball stuff. But anyway.
I was hoping we could do that the other way around.
Yeah.
I'll eat first in the buffet line.
Watch out for the shrimp.
Okay. Here's a softball, then I'm going to throw you a little bit more of a curveball. In the city council chambers, I have commented several times at the microphone system there.
Yeah.
And I don't have perfect hearing, but I'm also not deaf.
Yeah.
You cannot hear anybody talking. And to me, it smacks of,
Yeah.
we don't want anyone to hear what we're saying.
Yeah.
And that's really just seems to go against the grain of what I think the
Yeah.
city wants
Yeah.
and stands for. So I'd like to know that the speaker system is going to get fixed so that we can hear and we don't all have to sit in the front row.
Yeah, I don't want to put Concord TV on the spot because Concord TV does the sound.
It is a combination of issues that we have very good. You should be able to hear in there. And if you ever cannot hear, please come over and talk to us over it.
Do you guys
Yeah.
control the sound of
Yeah.
the council
We control
chambers?
the sound there. Councilors, zoning board members, anybody that's there has to speak into their microphone. Please feel free to say, speak into your microphone if you're unable to hear. I will do my best to do that as well when I'm there. There's limitations because feedback issues, things
Sure.
like that. Remember, this goes out to the broadcast and things like that.
Well, I think we
Yeah.
have to strike the compromise for the people in the room.
Well, we try to make sure that we pump it up as loud as possible.
Okay.
And, there's solutions that we have if folks are hard of hearing. I know that the school board, at least in Concord, utilizes a device to allow people to hear better. Maybe that's something we can work with the city to install that there.
Yeah.
I really did not know I was going to be put on the spot.
Well, I think
Basically, we try our best. We've got a
You-
certain
you-
level of budget.
You've
We're
already,
responsible for broadcasting it.
Yeah.
We're responsible for making sure
Yeah.
the stuff is here. We come out to cover these things.
Yeah.
We'll
We're
do our
very,
best
yeah.
and encourage your counselors to support your local access.
well,
stations. So that's what we
you've
do.
already said the solution. They need to speak into the microphone
Speaking in
so
the
that the people in the
microphone.
room can hear.
Yeah.
There should be no secrets in a council chamber.
I don't
And-
think
and-
anybody is trying to be secretive
I-
in a council chamber. I think in discussions that are going on.
Do you want me to take it? Do you want me to take it?
You
I
can
gotta get
feel
you off
free
the
to
hook.
take it too.
I think that we have had some low talkers on city council. And I think the mayor has done a good job of trying to get people to speak into the microphones. And I don't think, we're not trying to be secretive. I think that it has to do with again, some people who speak in a low voice or who start up here and then have end up down there. And I think that that's something that certainly when I'm sitting in the center chair, I'll try to address it. Because I agree with you. I mean, we've talked about moving the city council meetings around the city. I don't think that's practicable for exactly the reason that you're saying, is that people need to hear clearly what people are saying, both what the city councilors are saying and what the people who are testifying are saying. So, I am toying with the idea of maybe having some listening sessions where we get the city council out to just listen to the public, like a modification of this. Because I think that's more practical. We're not conducting city business where people really need to hear. So thanks for that question.
Yeah, and that if Mr. Mayor-elect, if we need to put little signs on the microphones, I can work on that too to encourage folks to speak in. We have done that at the school board as well.
I thought that was a softball, so here comes the curveball.
Sure.
If you sign the agreement with Community Power, does everyone in the city have to do that, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's an opt-out system, and it's not, we don't sign with Community Power, it's just we go into Community Power. And we basically would have somebody who would, we'd have somebody at the city who would be managing the process, whichever way it went. But it's an opt-in process, in other words, it's an opt-out process. In other words, everybody would go on Community Power, but you would have the option to not take it if you want. And here's an example of where you might want to opt out. If you were using net metering for your home solar, it probably would be more advantageous for you to stay on Unitil. But my understanding is that it would be very easy to do.
And do these rates get published? Because electricity varies.
Yeah.
It's not that constant.
Yeah. The idea is to always I guess there's no 100% guarantee all the time, but the goal is to purchase for less than what Unitil would be charging. So that there is now, you also would have options on what level of renewables you want in your mix. And the more renewables you want in your mix, the more expensive it would be. So if you are a real environmental person and you want to use 100% renewables, you could choose that. But your per unit cost for the electricity would be higher than somebody who had, say, 50%, 60% non-renewables and 40% renewable. But there are going to be, and they're working on what those choices would be. But you'd have some choices.
I'm just asking about the existing clubhouse. Apparently the city is willing to build a structure, but then allows it to deteriorate. I mean, you mentioned that it was built when you were in high school. My house is a lot older than that. It's not falling down.
Right.
If you build a new one,
yeah.
What guarantee do we have that it'll be properly maintained and won't be in the same situation that the existing one is?
Well, I think I think that the term deferred maintenance has been used. And I used to work in higher education, and as a lower echelon higher education person, and that was a problem that they had. I don't know that this is deferred maintenance so much as it is just an old tired building. I mean, the roof doesn't leak, but there are other issues that need to be addressed, and I think part of those is just the age of the building, not so much that it's been neglected. So the city, I think, does do a good job of within budget trying to maintain its facilities. But you look at the issues around Memorial Field, for example, which don't really affect Penacook residents as much. But part of that is that the drainage system was put in I don't know how many years ago, and it's just completely failed. I mean, it's just it's filled with silt and everything, and so it floods, and those are the kinds of things that sometimes happen. Althea? I'm sorry, go ahead.
You use the word neglected, and that speaks of not doing the things that need doing.
Okay.
And I think if a new one is built,
Yeah,
there needs to be some guarantee that stuff is taken care of.
that's reasonable. Yeah. Althea?
You mentioned, I'm sorry, I'm right behind you. You mentioned that your house is much older than that. I believe the clubhouse was built in the 60s?
66, I think.
66. So the construction materials and techniques of the 60s were different from, say, 19th century homes that we have in Penacook or around the city. Maintaining them is sometimes harder and I'm talking from the point of view of someone who works in preservation of old buildings, but maintaining a building from the 60s or 70s or 80s is sometimes harder and more expensive than maintaining an older building. And I also just wanted to give a little.
You mean a newer building?
I mean an older building. The older buildings are built more solid.
Oh, I see what you're saying,
with
okay.
better quality wood
Yeah.
and materials. But I just also wanted to give a little cheerleading plug because you mentioned Briar Hydro. And as you probably know, Briar Hydro generates electricity in Penacook at the dams that we have on the Penacook River. So Concord doesn't generate electricity, but Penacook does.
And some of Boscawen, because some of it is in Boscawen, yeah. Yes, sir.
So you talked about the new park at Canal Street.
Yes.
Can you tell me what's happening about the park that's across the village street, that's behind what is now Springs and Things?
I'm not sure. Do you know what's going on with that?
Jack is talking about about Riverside Park, and I think.
Oh, yeah, Riverside Park,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so that, and I think, I don't know if you, I mean, I could just quickly speak to that. But
Yeah,
I think that the
go ahead.
plan was that what would the, as the new Canal Street Park, as was mentioned, is being constructed, and we're anticipating that that will be completed by late summer or fall of next year. In conjunction with that, there can be some movement toward fixing up and working on elements of Riverside Park as well, because there's money budgeted for both. So I think that the Penacook Village Association, which I think I mentioned actually at last year's annual meeting, that we have collected some funds that we could donate toward particular items that might be desired for the park. So it might be benches, it might be historical signage, those kinds of things. And so we, as an organization, we'd be willing to kind of work with the community and work with those interested in preserving the park and with Parks and Rec to make those things happen.
So will there be some sort of participation by the local community at the city level instead of just from Penacook's level? I mean,
Well, yes, because Parks and Rec really is going to be maintaining and making the final call on what kind of materials and things are used. If we want to, for example, install a park bench, it needs to meet certain requirements for durability and certain standards that the Parks and Rec has set out and that they use in all of the parks. So they'll definitely have oversight and they'll be involved, and they will also be around to assist and provide the labor as well for installing these particular amenities. So I think there'll definitely be it'll be a mix of things. But the folks in Penacook want to be involved because it's our park and we want to have say of what kinds of things we'd like to improve, what we'd like to see. So yeah, I think that'll all happen.
So, but I guess my question really goes to, is there gonna be a plan instead of sort of an ad hoc kind of thing where we're gonna just say, oh, we'll take care of this and we'll take care of that? And the reason I ask this is I'm a volunteer there. And I have been asking for a sign on that particular spot because our sign got vandalized to pieces for 5 years, and I have nothing. So things like that, if it's all ad hoc and there's no community input, then I get suspect about how it's actually gonna be arranged.
Yeah, I think that for the sign, I think that General Services has the ability to create a new sign,
Yeah.
kind of like the old one, right?
So here's the thing.
So yeah.
Poncho that, okay? Try to get General Services or Park and Rec to actually do that. Okay, because they will just look at you and go, we'll take care of that, and then 5 years later, you're in this meeting.
Right. Well, that's where an organization like the Penacook Village Association can step in, because we do have a slightly louder voice being an association as we are. That references the fact that we're a community group and city government will listen to us. So what we can do is we can discuss that actually afterwards. We'll have a quick meeting afterwards and see if we can just agree, and I'm sure we would, to send a letter, so the PVA can send a letter to the city, or we can just make contact that way and just suggest that we want certain things accomplished as soon as possible, like signage and so forth. But really what we should do, I think, Jack, is just coordinate with you and get a sense, because you are the volunteer there, of what the other needs are. So I know signage is one. What are the other things that are the top things on the list? Because if we can get Parks and Rec out there, they might be able to take care of more than just the sign, and we just have them
I
tick
would
off.
love to provide you with that list.
Good, that's what we'll get, and then we'll move forward from there.
Yeah, great, thank you,
Excellent.
Jack.
Yeah. One thing, you're going to be next, but one thing I wanted to mention is, I meant to mention the activity at Merchants Way. And, you know, I was in a conversation with David and Lori Rossio before we started. And that's, again, another one of the great energy, centers of energy for Penacook right now. You know, Councilor Todd shared with me that market basket apparently is the 4th most profitable market basket in the company's chain. And the other businesses that you're bringing in there, the level of energy is just great. And I guess Starbucks is in the works, right? Is there anything else you want to share, or any other activities?
Sure. In the spring, we'll be working with Concord Hospital to put an urgent care there. And we've been working with sort of a couple other sort of complementary retail uses. Our push most recently is actually to try to get a more traditional sit-down restaurant at that location, which is it's a challenge,
Great.
but yeah, that's our focus anyhow.
Well, thank you. I didn't mean to ignore. I skipped right over you in my notes.
No problem.
All
And
right.
I guess also we should mention a cell tower.
And a cell tower. Okay.
Yes, recently approved by the city, and now we're lining up tenants for that, so that construction can start perhaps in the spring.
Super. Yes.
Thank you. For the, you were talking about the Beaver Meadow. Can you speak toward has there been any discussion about how balancing, excuse me, balancing the needs of sports versus education with the whole discussion of Rundlet? I know this doesn't really affect most of us here,
Yeah.
but we do have kids in Penacook who go down toward that area.
Yeah.
And overall, I mean, education should affect all of us.
Yeah.
If, you know, Rundlet is an important part of our community as a whole, and education should be a priority for all of us. And if that's being, you know, if part of the issue for Rundlet is that they don't have enough money to tear down the old building, and they're gonna try to rebuild on top of what's there, which is kind of unsafe or crumbling.
Yeah.
Shouldn't money be reallocated from a golf club to the education to try, you know, tear down the old building to keep our kids safe?
Yeah. Well, first of all, as I know you know, in Concord, the school board is separate from the city council. So city council has no authority over school board. We're the only municipality in the state that's that way, and I've heard stories about why it's that way, and I don't want to repeat them because I'm not sure how accurate they were, but apparently the legislature set this up this way. So now, that said, you know, the money is coming from the same pair of trousers, it's just coming from different pockets. So there is it's all coming from the same tax base. I think education is extremely important. I don't want to get into the school board's lane because that's their lane. But I think that, you know, you're right. We do have to be cognizant of the educational needs. I think that one of the options they're looking at is to rebuild next to the existing building, and then tear that building down, and then convert that space into playing fields, a recreational area. And then the other proposal that they're looking at, and I think they're having a hearing on it tomorrow, is to build a new building at Broken Ground. And that's the dialogue that's going on right now. You know, relative to, you know, Beaver Meadow, again, you know, Beaver Meadow is not really a golf club. Beaver Meadow is a city golf course. You know, what are referred to as memberships, and I think that's the city's vernacular, are really seasons passes, in my view. In other words, I don't think that you get anything. If you get a season's pass, you get to play golf, but you don't necessarily get to use the facility or have other benefits like you would if you were a member of Concord Country Club. You know, plus we have in the winter skating, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing on the facility. So the grounds are a recreational facility. The issue, I think, is what are we looking for in something to either a renovation or a replacement of the existing structure? Are we looking for bare bones, just to have, a snack bar, maybe, and so forth? Or are we going to do more? Are we going to have more community meeting space? Are we going to have storage space for the Concord High School cross-country team, which trains there? Do we want to have, a larger restaurant there for the public, which would be, contracted out to a private concern, for example. So to me, those are the questions that we need to address. Those are the questions that we need to talk about. Like, if we're going to do something there, what do we want to get out of it? What's the maximum use, maximum benefit for the public at a reasonable cost? So. Yes, sir.
Hi, Byron.
Hey,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Back to Beaver Meadow. Next week at the city council meeting, explain to all of us what is the intent, because you need to delay any decision on Beaver Meadow. It comes down to money,
Uh-huh.
all right? And if I look around this room, there's a lot of people close to my age, and we have an opinion. And if we don't show up at the city council meeting next week, there's only so much room there, even though there's a petition circulating.
And you can send emails to the city clerk. Yeah.
But what is the intent of the city council when they look out in that room?
Yeah.
And they're gonna hear people saying, hold it, we want more discussion. Is that something you'll support? Brent, you'll support that? I don't think you should, approve anything next week. 10 million or 5 million. I think there has to be a lot more discussion on how this is gonna get paid for.
Yeah.
I mean, you've already raised my taxes $5,000 since I moved to this town, all right? And I'm on fixed income. So there's a percentage of us in this city that love this city. You guys don't know, but my wife was born here. Her family works for the Steenbecks. They retired, so they've been in town a long time. It's just getting very, very expensive for us.
Yep.
All right, but I know we're a community. We all pool together our money. I understand that. But is this the time to spend $5 million, $10 million when you have no control over our recycling costs? That's going to go way up. That's a burden we all have to handle.
Yeah.
And now the police department, if they want to buy that building, it goes on and on and on. So that's all I want to say.
No, and I think those are,
And I'm
thank you
glad
for
you
sharing
guys are
that.
there because you sit and you listen to us.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I voted for you.
Thanks. Well,
We just need to know, maybe we're a small majority in the town. There's
Yeah.
44,000 people. How many pay taxes? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd like to know how many actually use the golf course.
yeah,
All right? I was on the chamber. We've used the golf course. It's a great fundraiser
Yep,
for
yeah.
the nonprofits. But it's a lot of money to spend, and something has to be done. I know that.
yeah. I want to listen to what city staff says Monday night. I want to listen to what the public says Monday night. I think it may be prudent to send it back and for a rework, to look at more options. Again, I want to hear what's said, and I'm open to a variety of options. I guess that's what I would say. I want to remain flexible, based on what I hear and based on and we're getting a lot of input. I have to be honest. A lot of people express the same concerns you do. I talk to people who don't even know it's an issue. I talk to people. Somebody buttonholed me in the narthex of my church and said, "Get the damn thing done. Do it." And he's not a golfer. He's retiring like you and me, and he lives in the South End. And he just said, "Move forward on it." So there are a variety of opinions out there. I want to hear the opinions. I want to hear what city staff says, and then I'm going to vote based on that. I hope that's a fair answer. Yeah, Chris.
Can you clarify how much of that $10 million is for the parking lot and how much is for the building?
I cannot. I don't want to even guess because I know that it's in there. I'm just not sure how much. You're right. Part of it is to redo the parking lot, which is a mess. And the 900 and some odd thousand dollar renovation estimate, I believe, did not have that in there. And that figure, I think that figure should not even be, I mean, that's a figure that is so out of date now, I have no idea what, the same renovations would cost today.
I think I could add to that, Chris. I think that originally when the project was being scoped, the parking lot, the cost of redoing the parking lot was somewhere in the range of $400,000. And during repricing, that came in at over $1,400,000. So
Thank you,
the price
Brent.
went up exponentially. And that's really the problem that we're going to see, I think, going forward. And, Don made some really good points. It's going to be a real challenge to be able to do things, new construction, especially in the city, and find bargains. That's going to be really challenging. We're going to have to make some careful selections going forward. And of course, we do always try to be mindful of the increases from the city portion of our taxes, which again is about 1/3 of all of your taxes is the city portion. That's what we have control over. We try to do the best we can to watch over that carefully. If you look back, we've really pretty much, you can average out the last 10 years, it's been about a 3% increase every year.
Right.
Which when you think about all of the other cost increases that we're facing, groceries up 18%, it's kind of crazy. So really, if you look at it that way, we really have worked, I think, very hard. And council, I think, overall has done a great job. And the mayor's leadership and our mayor-elect, I'm sure, will have the same great leadership going forward as we kind of watch over those things very carefully.
Yeah, about 85% of your municipal tax dollar goes to police, fire, and general services. And I think there's 15% is debt is debt maintenance. And from in the general fund, 73% of the money in the general fund is wages and benefits. So most of what we pay for, and this is not to discount the discussion about this capital project, most of what we pay for is actually for personnel. Yes, ma'am.
Were there any projections made about income that the new facility would bring in to offset taxes that
Not
it
that
would generate?
not that I've seen, but I would like to see that. That's one of the things I would like to see. For example, I do know that the 2 golf simulators that are there generate about $100,000 a year in revenue. And based on 2023, the 2023 budget, fiscal 2023 budget, which went from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. So our fiscal year spans 2 calendar years. But based on the revenues from the golf course in fiscal 23, they had a surplus of $160,000, a little more than $160,000. But I think your point is well taken, that part of the mix should be, what is this going to do to revenues, and why is this necessary for revenues? Because the city council, and I think before I joined city council, and maybe you did, really took a hard look and said, we want this run like a business because we want it to be in the black. I mean, if you use the Everett Arena has not been in the black for certainly the 10 years that I've been on city council, and probably more than that. The golf course has actually generated surpluses for 3 years?
At least 2, I think.
At least 2, maybe 3 years. And that's because of the competitive pricing, because bringing in things like the golf simulators and so on and so forth. So they've tried to run it more competitively in order to make it at least pay for its own operational expenses. So, well, thank you all. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate, again, I love being able to talk to the PVA. I appreciate the invitation, and I know you have a business meeting, so I don't want to keep you here later than I have to. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming out and taking the questions, and I'm sure you'll be hanging around a little bit longer. If there's something else that you think of that you'd like to check in with our mayor-elect about, please feel free to do so. And yeah, did you have another, Pat?
Well, I just wanted give a blanket thank you to the city council. They give up a lot of their time and energy to help this city. And I think we should always remember that they're trying to make the best decision given all the many compromises you've talked about. So
Pat, I
we may
appreciate
not
that.
always like the decision, but I think you're trying to do it for the right thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to do myself.
I
Here, take my cell phone.
I could use an extra cell phone, but I'm probably better off with this for now. Thank you, though. Just wanted to, on behalf of the PVA and all of us, say thank you. Thank you to all of you who came out for the tree lighting ceremony, our 18th tree lighting, which went very well. And we look forward to 2024 and to being able to have the same events that we've done and maybe some new things. So I look forward to working with all of you on that. Have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you again next year. Thank you. Good night.